Hello, 7th graders, and welcome to your next lesson for this unit, which is on volumes of prisms. We are moving into talking about volumes this week, volume of prisms as well as volumes of cylinders. So make sure that you are keeping your notes. Your notes are for yourself. What I'm going to be doing moving forward is just having all your notes in one packet. So that way you don't have to go through and rip through everything. But your notes are for you to keep. So I know a few people asked me, when's this video coming up? It's not till this week as you're seeing it now being uploaded. Okay, so this is for week 5 material. Something else that is being changed here is that I'm going to have a code word for each video, each lesson. Okay, so I know sometimes the lessons get split up into 2 parts. So the code word could be either in part 1 or part 2 if these lessons go into part 2. Okay. Your code word is there so that I understand if you have been watching the video or not, because I have a lot of students who are asking me questions who I feel like have not been watching the videos. So at any point I could ask you, hey, what's the code word for lesson 14.4? You come to me and be like, Miss Wink, I don't understand this. I'll be like, okay, did you watch the video? You might say yes, but then I'm going to ask, do you know the code word? If you can't tell me the code word, I'm going to send you right back to rewatch this, okay? So please watch out for our code word during this video. But for right now, we're just going to keep going through. When the code word shows up, okay? So your objective is I can find the volume of prisms and I can solve real life problems. So skipping our warm up, but here is your essential question. How can you find the volume of prisms? So remember that your prisms are going to be things that are like a rectangular prism, a triangular prism, I think we talked about octagonal prisms, something where it's going to have a base, and it's going to have at least 2 bases, okay? So it's going to have a top and a bottom. So last week, I think I used an example of this hand cream that I had that came in a rectangular prism. This one is kind of the same thing. This is, I've got a thing of paper clips. So this would be a rectangular prism because I could use any part of this as my base. And it is a 3D shape. I've got rectangles on every side here. All right. So let's talk about how we can find the volume of our prisms. Okay. So before I get to this, what I wanted to kind of think about, your volume is how much can this hold. So if I'm looking at this thing of paper clips here, okay, I want to know how much can I fill this up with. Whether I'm filling it up with paper clips, whether I'm filling it up with water, whether I'm filling it up with toothpaste. How much is going to fit in there? What amount of space will it fit? Okay. So again, with your prisms, the volume V of a prism is the product of the area of the base and the height of the prism. So you have a very basic formula for your volume of your prisms, which is just volume equals base times height. Okay. Each time, though, it's going to be different because think about this. If I solve for a rectangular base, the area of the base is length times width. Okay, so you have to be mindful of what shape is your base. Because in this case, I've got a triangular prism, and my base then is a triangle. So I have to use the formula for a triangle, which is you can either use base times height divided by 2 or 1/2 times the base times the height. So making sure you understand what is your area of the base, and then you just multiply it by how tall it is. So what's the height of that shape? Okay, pretty straightforward as we go through. If you have any questions, like I said, you need to make sure you know the code word when you email or text me, or you reach out to me on Zoom or anything. I'm going to ask if you're looking for some help on Zoom, please make sure you just text or like type it in the chat what the code word is. If any point you want to pause this video, you can to go back and relook at things, okay? Make sure you're also following along with the paper notes I have. If you don't have those copies, you should be able to find them on the Distance Learning website, and you can reprint them off or you can just use a blank sheet of paper to fill it in. All right, so our first one is we are going to find the volume of the prism. So this prism is a sorry, my nose itches. A rectangular prism, okay? So this one is actually fairly easy, guys. So because I have a rectangular prism, there's actually a way I can rewrite this formula, okay? So we talked about that the base is length times width. So ultimately I'm taking the base, which is length times width, and then I'm going to multiply it by the height. So ultimately my volume formula for a prism like this is length times width times height. Hey, isn't that all three of the measurements I have? To be honest with you, when you're multiplying like this, it doesn't matter what order it's in, okay? I would say that my length, though, is 6, okay? My width is 8. And then I would say my height here is 15. But I could put them in any order, as long as I'm just multiplying them all together, okay? With that being said, then, I'm going to multiply all of those. So 6 times 8 times 15. I'm just going to throw it in my calculator. You could do it long-handed if you want. You can also use a calculator on your phone if you want to use one on the computer if you don't have a calculator at home. Okay. So 6 times 8 times 15, which gives me 720. Now, the biggest thing to remember here with volume is your units, units, units. So many people, when we were doing the last unit, okay, so unit in math, when we were doing circles and area of composite figures and perimeter of composite figures, forgot their units. I'm taking lots of points off if you do not remember your units. Units are very important. So I have to take a look at what unit this is being measured in. It is being measured in yards, so I'm going to add yards. Okay. Now yards is here. My volume is always put to the third, because if you can see, I multiplied 3 different values. That's where this 3 comes from. So when I have my unit, I'm going to put it to the third. Okay. If you just put yards, I'm telling you, it's not going to be correct. So make sure you double check your units and that you are accurate with them. Okay. Let's keep going then. All right, so your next one is to find the volume of this prism. Now, if we take a look at this prism, my base is actually a triangle. So this is where I'm going to have to use that formula where we kind of rewrote it a little bit as I take the base times the height of the triangle, not just the shape, okay? It is difficult to understand some of that, but there's 2 different heights in here, okay? There's the height of the triangle, and then there's the height of the prism. So that's why you're going to see 2 different h's, and I can't simplify this problem in a sense, okay? Divide by 2, and then I'm multiplying by h the height of the prism, okay? So let's go ahead first. I'm going to figure out what is this base of the triangle. My base looks to be this 5.5 inches, so I'm going to write 5.5. And my height of the triangle, is 2. And I'm going to divide that by 2. And then I'm going to multiply all of this by the height of the prism. So if I was to actually put this and flip it over so that the base, the part that this prism is sitting on, is the triangle, my height is going to be this other measurement of 4. Okay, so I'm going to multiply all of this by 4. What I want to do from here is I want to figure out this part first. Don't even worry about this multiplication of 4. Okay, so I'm going to figure out what is this 5.5 times 2 and divide it by 2. Well, one easy way to do this is 2 divided by 2 is just 1. Okay, so the 2's cancel each other out. I'm just left with the 5.5. If you're not positive on that, just multiply it out. 5.5 times 2 gives me 11. 11 divided by 2, yeah, it does give me 5.5. So I'm going to have 5.5 then times 4. Okay, I'm going to grab my calculator for this one. I know that 5 times 5 is 2. 5.5 times 2 is 11. So 4 should be 22, but I want to make sure and just double check that I got my math right. And it is 22, okay? And that's my last part that I needed to do. So then I'm going to go back and look at my units. My units is inches, and we're talking about volume, so volume always has to be to the third, or sometimes they will call it cubed, okay, inches cubed. So here is my final answer for the volume, meaning that it could hold up to 22 inches cubed. Okay, if I wanted to fill this with rice or beans or, I don't know, lotion, whatever I wanted to fill it up with, I can fill it up that much. Okay. Without it going over and exploding. Right? So I want you to try and do these ones on your own here. So find the volume of the prism. Okay. Again, think about what kind of shape this is and how you're going to find your volume. So think about what kind of base it is and then multiplying it by the height. Okay. So take the time right now to pause the video. Go ahead, solve these problems. Make sure you add your units. Please add your units with the correct variable or exponent to it. Okay. When you come back, I will have your answers for you. So please pause the video and I will see you here in just a sec. Hello everyone and welcome back. We were finishing up these last few problems. I asked you to do them on your own. So here are the solutions. Please double check your answers. So for number 1, you have a cube. So ultimately you just need to multiply all those sides together. Or you could just take 4 to the third. 4 to the third then is going to be 64, and you're going to have 64 feet cubed, or to the third, okay? Problem number 2, I wrote up my work a little differently this time so that you can see kind of more of my fast hand work. This is kind of how I would normally do a problem like this without being as detailed. So what I did is I figured out the area of the base, which is a triangle, took my base of the triangle, okay, and then multiplied by the height of the triangle. From there, divide it by 2. So 12 times 5 is 60. Divided by 2 gives me 30. Remember, your volume formula is just the area of the base times the height of the actual prism. So then I'm taking this 30 and I'm multiplying it by 9, which is the actual height of the prism, okay, to get my final answer of 270 meters cubed. Okay. Again, make sure you double check your work here. Let me know if you've got any questions. Now, I didn't forget about your code word. We are going to pause this video from here. Remember, I can only record up to 15 minutes. So please watch out for part 2 of this lesson. I will catch you there and you will see your code word there as well. Okay. Not always am I going to do it right away. Not always is it going to be in part 2. You got to be vigilant and make sure that you are checking every single part and watching every single video. Okay. So take a little break if you want to go to the bathroom, get a drink of water. I will catch you back in part 2 and we will continue on with this lesson. See you then.